going to like NA meetings and AA, the cult, it's built upon bullshit. We must remember we are sick people. That's the one that just absolutely breaks my heart. I just fell into the worst mental health crisis. It was like, you have to stay sober, even if that means taking your own life before you use drugs. He was like, you know what, man, I would really rather you smoke a joint and not kill yourself. And that was the crack in my brainwashing. What if it's the thing that they're saying is the solution is causing me all of this pain? Leaving the rooms and starting the deprogramming journey was the absolute hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. I believed with every fabric of my being that this was true. And now I don't. It's a total like existential crisis mindfuck. Like I felt this pain and loneliness from leaving the rooms. What I like to call 12-step programs is the glass ceiling society. I thought that I was living my life to the fullest while I was in it. And I'm like, motherfucker, I got a life beyond my wildest dreams because I got that shit out of my fucking head.
Hello and welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. My name is Kirsten. Super excited you are here today for this leaving AA conversation. We have John in the house today. What's up?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
I hear you may have just started a YouTube channel this month. Where can people find you if they want to come vibe?
I did actually. Our podcast today was sort of the fire under my rear end, so to speak, to do it. I called it, it's called From Recovery to Discovery. I am a big believer that we can't, despite being told that we have to be in, forever, forevery, that actually through my own experience and from experiences like yours that I've observed, we can recover and really set our preferences for ourselves of what success in this realm looks like, and then step into what I call discovery, which there's no dogma or anything behind it. It's just the process of discovering who we really are, what we want out of life. And because we're individuals and we are in fact unique, it looks different for everybody. Who would have thought?
Totally. I love that. Obsessed. So why don't you give us a little bit of an idea of how long you were in AA or 12-step and about when did you leave?
Yeah, so I actually, my program of choice, so to speak, was Narcotics Anonymous. I came into the room, I got clean on February 6th of 2019, and I left in June of 2020, like you, during the pandemic. And so I was in there about a year and a half. And I was absolutely a true believer. I still have a drawer back there with all of my books, with all of the stuff underlined and my key tags and all of that stuff. I really believed it with every fabric of my being. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild how fast the indoctrination works, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess where I'd like to start is kind of the background of why I got indoctrinated so quickly. It makes a lot of sense looking back. My parents got divorced when I was 3, and I kind of grew up bouncing from one household to the other every like other day. So it was like Monday night at mom's house, Tuesday night at dad's house, and I had a really loving mom. I really believe that like pretty much everybody, if they met her, would just love her. She was an amazing person. My dad really had an unhealthy relationship to his work and was pretty neglectful. And when he met my stepmom when I was 5, she hated my mom. And because she couldn't really channel that hatred towards my mom herself, she channeled it through me, through this like innocent 5-year-old boy who like wanted to be loved. There was pretty intense psychological abuse that took place at a very young age. And kind of like you, I try to not, I try to choose my identity very carefully. But one thing I really do resonate with is like I am a highly sensitive person. I feel very deeply, and I would kind of consider myself to be like a high sensation seeking, highly sensitive person. So like I want to drink in the beautiful sunset and it'll like make me cry. And like I'm a roller coaster enthusiast. So like I love like traveling the world riding roller coasters. And I loved drugs and like these things that make me like really feel. I just always have craved those types of sensations. And I think also because of that, when my stepmom began abusing me, I was at an age that I was pretty fragile in that way. And so when it all came down to like kind of grooming me to have this perception that I wasn't enough and that I wasn't deserving of love, that really stuck with me. And so then I would say following that, I had a transition from going from the second grade to the third grade and changing schools. And I went from a very small school to like a giant public school. And on the first day of school in the third grade, I was targeted and assaulted by like two sixth grade kids. They pushed me to the ground during lunch and they stomped on my face repetitively and like sent me to the hospital. It was really, really traumatic and really painful. Looking back, I have so much compassion for myself because I made a childhood vow with myself that I wouldn't put myself into a social situation where something like that could happen again. And so I did my best to kind of become a chameleon and like not go out to recess or lunch and just um, avoid anything like that happening again. And now, that was the challenging some of the challenging aspects of my childhood, but also through the love of my mom, I had amazing experiences. She was a big time traveler, and every year we would go on like a cool international trip. And so I don't want to paint my life as just having this like horrific childhood. I was very, very loved, and the friendships that I did make, while not a lot of them were in my school, I did have wonderful friends growing up. But this feeling of feeling different, not belonging, but really wanting to belong. Like my heart and soul craved to be like one of the cool kids, or even if it wasn't a cool kid, to just fit in somewhere. And so when I it fast forward, when I got to the point in my life where I had a therapist and I had been really trying to work on this issue of not feeling good enough or not feeling worthy of love. I also was having some substance use in there, and I had been in a relationship for 11 years that actually was pretty toxic in a variety of ways. Because I hadn't done a lot of healing, I kind of had like a love addiction to that partner, to where like I didn't feel like I would be okay alone or single. And then she was also pretty controlling, and so it was like she knew how to pull away, and then I would like freak out and do whatever I could to get her to um show love again. So that relationship kind of came to a head at a point where I was in therapy. She got very jealous of me having friends, so I was very isolated. I was using cannabis to have some semblance of like regulation. And my therapist said to me one day, she said, John, I really want to help you with this journey of like learning to love and accept yourself. But I see you come into the office like high, and I see you come into the office low, and I just don't think that I'm going to be able to do that if like you're on drugs. So how would you feel about going with me to a NA meeting? And I was like, all right. Like it was like the clouds parted and I was like, you know what? You're right. Like you're right. I'm at a point to where I see this really clearly and I want to try to do something about it. And so I went with my therapist to like an NA meeting, and I think that right away, I think that I have this sort of gift of speaking from the heart and with authenticity and vulnerability. And I think that people in the rooms could sense that. And so after about my first, second or third meeting, I mean, right from the get-go, I identified as, an addict. And so I had people after the meeting coming and giving me the slip of paper with the phone numbers and, telling me they love me immediately. And as long as we share the same identity, I love you. My first sponsor approached me after like the third meeting and, was like, do you have a sponsor? I'm like, no. Oh, I'll be your sponsor. And so it goes. But that feeling of that deep seated childhood feeling of like, I want to belong, felt like initially it was finally met. It gave me a context at the time to that made sense in terms of my substance use, and made sense in that, like, oh, that's why I am the way that I am. That's why I'm an addict. And so yeah, that was kind of how that journey began, and why right from the get-go, like, I just got so indoctrinated, because I didn't come into it from like your story, seeing it at first as being a religious cult, and then over time getting indoctrinated. Like I just was like, I was just an open book, and so it happened really quick and really strongly for me.
Yeah, it's so interesting is so many people tell me that AA doesn't have recruitment. People don't like when I use the terminology around cults and religion applied to AA, people who are not in AA or in AA ideology, right? Like society at large is. So when I say AA's primary purpose is to recruit, people give me a lot of pushback and they're like, AA doesn't recruit. You just told me you were recruited into Alcoholics Anonymous. No wonder why it's sunken fast for you, but it sinks in fast for a lot of us, including me. So it's not just you. The indoctrination works fast, right?
Yeah.
But you had a trusted person, a therapist. I'm assuming you trusted them, and that's why you were so open with your therapist. Your therapist literally recruited you, someone you trusted who knew all of your stuff, walked you hand in hand to sit in a meeting with you. Like, this is just like, my mind is like, that is the recruitment, people. And
Yep.
so, of course, you're super receptive because you didn't walk in skeptical. You walked in holding your therapist's hand, metaphorically,
Yep.
not physically.
Yep.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, with the approval of your therapist. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Why would you be hesitant? There's this person that you trust is introducing you to it.
Yep. Yep. And honestly, that, I think, probably one of my most radical stances is like, if it weren't for the recruitment, I would feel much more like live and let live, like let AA exist. Like seriously, like if it wasn't, if it really was attraction rather than promotion, I would totally be on board with that. But because of step 12, I'm like, I don't know if I can get on board with that. Like, nature abhors a vacuum. Why can't we just get rid of it and then have something that's based upon science and logic to like come and provide at least something better? I don't mean to say that from a place of like wishing harm upon members, because I was a member. Like, I believed with every fabric of my being that this was true. And now I don't. And that's been one of the greatest mind fucks of all, is that process of like believing in an ideology with like everything I have. And then, holy shit, like, I don't think it's true anymore. It's like it's a total like existential crisis mind fuck. Like
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A hundred
Crazy.
percent. Are you still actively deprogramming from AA?
Oh, 100%. I mean, like you, this whole process of going into it and coming out of it has caused me to become fascinated with like cults and watching all the cult documentaries and reading the books and diving into like Stanton Peele's work and all of that stuff, which honestly, even though I credit 12 step with causing an immense amount of harm in my life, which we'll get to later on, and like you, leaving the rooms and starting the deprogramming journey was the absolute hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. This is speaking from a guy who like spent, thankfully not all that, like cannabis was my primary sort of substance that was there all the time, but like I got really addicted to like crack at one point. I got really addicted to meth. Like I've been through some shit regarding like substances, getting arrested, all of that. But leaving that cult was absolutely the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. But at the same time, I also feel like it was the greatest catalyst for my like evolution and growth and transformation. And really, I say this from the bottom of my heart. I don't regret my time there. Like even though it was so painful, I learned so much about myself and like friendship and like learning what friendship isn't so that I can like work to cultivate what my idea of friendship is. Like that was huge for me because of like wanting to fit in school. When I came into the rooms, I'm like, I want to be friends with everybody. And now I'm like, actually, there's a certain flavor of like friend that I really am like aiming to have be a part of my life. And what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. I mean, so yeah, I'm very much still on my deprogramming journey. I'm really at that point, like you've talked about on so many of your videos. It's like you kind of laid these breadcrumbs where it's like when I started dissenting online, that was sort of, it provided me with room for even more growth. And I'm like, yep, she's speaking to me right now. It's time, it's time. So and yeah, absolutely, I'm still on my deprogramming journey 100%.
My God, you're so right. You do have a gift speaking from the heart. I just was about to cry and then I had the chills and then I've just, it's been like, I just really feel your journey so much. I think that it's perfect for you to, the way that you express yourself. Like, yeah, I really feel what you're saying. So I agree that there's a gift that is happening right now, people. So I just really appreciate you. And what I find striking about your story is that you left about 5 years ago, right? You were there a year and a half, and 5 years later, you are still getting it out of your head. This
Yeah.
is what I want to like put like an exclamation point on, which is like, it is AA ideology, 12 step ideology, NA is cunning, baffling, and powerful. Like how
Yeah.
they say alcohol is, I'm like, Alcoholics Anonymous is. It
Yep.
literally, for me, it was harder, like you said, it was harder for me to get sober from AA, to leave AA, than to get sober in the first place. And that was brutal.
Yeah.
So, fully on board. Wow. Like, you are so courageous, first of all, to leave, and second of all, to get to a place where you're ready to speak about it. Because we've been messaging for a little while now, and now it's
Mhm.
like, boom. I feel like for me, it was like the volcano was building, and I was never going to talk about AA on the internet. Then all of a sudden, I was like, I can't not. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm going to do this. This is bananas. And
Yep.
then I'm still exploding.
Yep. Yep. And you are so appreciated for it. I mean, just your courage and your the way you're able to articulate and just everything about it. It was just like, this is exactly what, this is just a wonderful flavor of people that are stepping out and dissenting online. When I left, there was even less people speaking about this, at least in video
Yep.
form. And so really, when I looked up videos, really the only thing that I could find was something about deconstructing the 12-step delusion or something. And then I discovered Quackaholics Anonymous, which like
Yeah.
shout out to you, Victor. Like
What's up,
you,
Quacky?
yeah. Victor, you were like my like quacky bedtime stories, like going to sleep for like, I mean, still you still are, but like, man, I just just and so that was pretty much it. But oh my gosh, it was just this breath of fresh air. And then I discovered you, and it's been so validating to know that like I'm not alone in my experience, because it really was so lonely at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I form very, very deep connections with the people that become my friends and with the people that I love in my life. I really crave like deep conversation. And so my friends, like we talk about the deep stuff. When I left the rooms, and because I was a true believer, my whole milieu was other true believers. And so, of course, I was going to be shunned, like to the
Mm-hmm.
highest degree. I live in a small city in the Bay Area on the ocean. And so, like, the flavor of NA here is like really culty. And you pass by the people a lot on the streets. And just to see the people who once, like, said that they loved me unconditionally, like turn their nose up at me when I pass by and ignore me, it broke my heart. It really broke my heart, and it caused me to not trust other people for a period of time when I
Yeah.
left. I'm like, well, if everyone out there is just conditional and I have to believe a certain thing in order to get accepted, kind of like screw people, And over time, I had to relearn that like actually, I would say more people don't believe this stuff than do, even though society is like we're indoctrinated into it. When I talk to a lot of people out in the world about my experience, they're like, oh yeah, I don't believe that at all. Like that's like that's ridiculous. What? You mean they believe that shit in there? Like, my God, I'm glad you got out, man.
That's what I think when people tell me about these like ideologies or cults that they've left and they tell me what they believe. I'm like, what? But that's what they think about us.
Yep, yep, yep.
For anybody, any of our international friends here, that's Northern California, right?
Yes, yes, yep. Northern California, about 70 miles south of San Francisco. Yep, on the ocean. Beautiful, beautiful city. I love living here, but it's definitely it has small town vibes in terms especially of like being in the rooms and then leaving. That's been a challenge to encounter, and like ultimately where I've landed is like those weren't really my friends,
Mm,
They were people who it seemed like they were sort of facades of friends. And, I'm sure that if I stayed, like that facade would have been maintained. But at the level of depth that I crave in connections, they're not my friends. And in the end they showed their true colors. But what I will say, and this is what I call the gem of my experience in NA, is that my three best friends that I have in the whole world came from NA. And they are also people that are not in NA anymore. And it was just such a cool experience to like become friends with them and cultivate this beautiful friendship. But then it was like when we left, it was like there was a stencil that had like contained us. These are the things that we can talk about. These are the ideas that we can have. These are the things we can't talk about or believe about ourselves. And then when we left and started deprogramming, that stencil got lifted off, and we got to discover this whole beautiful landscape of friendship underneath the stencil. That was just so beautiful, and still is my best friend in the entire world. We met on like because when you're in the rooms, like there's the conventions and then there's like the campouts and all. I would go to all of that stuff. So we met on this, ironically, this campout called the Set 'em Free campout. But there it was on the American River, and we went like whitewater rafting, and his name's Jake. It was like the campfire meeting, and I was sharing, and like we had seen each other at a meeting before, but he actually arrived at camp and like walked up to the campfire when I was sharing. From his words, he said later, he was like, I just heard you speaking, and I'm like, I gotta be this guy's friend. We gotta become friends. And so we connected, and then ended up like sitting in the very front of the whitewater raft. It was so much fun. And that was just such a beautiful, beautiful gem. It's interesting too, because Jake is, I don't know what you would call it. I don't like these words like clean and sober, but he doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke weed. He does like coaching. So he helps people, like sort of a holistic approach of like helping people move beyond their habits. And that's what's so cool about true friendship to me is, and this is another one of the lies in the rooms, is that they say, oh, well, you can't hang out with people that aren't like doing the deal. That's dangerous. They're going to lead you down a bad road. But I don't believe exactly the things that Jake believes about substances, but I totally encourage his journey because I want my friends to be the happiest, healthiest selves that they could possibly be, regardless if that journey looks a little bit different from mine. And the friendships that I made there really were the gems.
The first 4.5 years of my sobriety were in San Francisco. We did camp outs. It was the American River. So I totally feel you on that one before I moved overseas. I have only been to NA maybe 3 times in my life. And that was when I worked in a rehab in Bali, Indonesia. And I was the chaperone on the druggy buggy to bring the rehabbers to NA, right? So I don't know actually, and a lot of people who watch or listen to the podcast are people from NA, right? So I'm curious if we can look at what are some of the things that when you were inside Narcotics Anonymous that you believed that you no longer believe to be true?
Well, I think that despite the fact that NA and AA kind of have this feud, it's like you're not really supposed to say sober in an NA meeting. You're supposed to say clean. And if you're in an AA meeting, you're not supposed to say clean. You're supposed to say sober. They're so similar to each other. And so the sort of foundation of the ideology, I think, essentially is the same. If I identify as an addict, that I have this chronic progressive disease, right? But it doesn't look like the other diseases because it's a spiritual disease, right? And whatever that means. And so
it means you need Bill's religion. That's what it means. If you have a spiritual malady, you need Bill's religion.
Right. And so there's that aspect to it. Some of the readings that we would read at the beginning of the meetings are specifically written for each program. There were certain, like, these were like the really culty parts of the meetings when the person reading the pamphlet would say, we must remember that we are sick people. And then everyone in the room would go, sick. And so it's this constant. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That makes me very emotional to hear.
Right. And so every single day we're reading this thing and everyone in the room is chanting sick. We must remember we are sick people, sick, over and over and over. And then, of course, there's the part about if you do the suggestions, then you'll not go to like jails, institutions, and death. And everyone in the room goes, jails, institutions, and death.
Oh my.
Oh my. But really the we must remember we are sick people, that's the one that just absolutely breaks my heart, because I really feel like the readings are where so much of the brainwashing comes in, to where it's like you're hearing them every single day. And so even if you're on your phone and you're not paying attention to them, it's seeping into the mind. And especially if someone was like me and really believed in it, I believed that I was sick. And let me tell you, coming from a guy who was kind of groomed to believe that I was unworthy of love and that I wasn't enough and that I was different. The fact of the matter is that I've really come to terms with the fact now in my life that like I am different. I haven't gotten diagnosed, but like I'm definitely neurospicy. I'm pretty sure that I have like some form of ADD. So that's another way that like your content really resonates with me, because you're talking about some of these aspects of yourself that were labeled as untreated alcoholism, and I'm just like, oh man, that's so me. I could just relate so much to that. So to come into an ideology where it's said that I must remember that I'm a sick person, it on the one hand super harmful, but on the other hand it made sense. It's like, of course I'm a sick person. I get it now. I'm sick. I've always been sick. Like it makes so much sense. Looking back on it, that part of it was so harmful. To go back to your question though, I think that NA essentially lumps, they try to sort of incorporate alcohol into the spectrum of drugs. So they'll, in one of the readings, it's like, we don't need to differentiate alcohol from other substances because alcohol is a drug, which like it is, like that makes sense to not have that line drawn between substances, I think, when people are sharing. But really from my experience going to like NA meetings and AA, like the core, the other than some language, the core message of the cult is the same. It's built upon bullshit. And even though they try to differentiate themselves from that, like that's still what it is. It's bullshit.
Totally. Yeah.
I would love to actually continue my story of my time there, because people might think, oh, it wasn't in the rooms for very long. Like it was only a year and a half. Like I worked the steps twice. I had my first sponsor who turned out to just be just the nerve of it. Looking back, I'm like, I can't believe this happened to me. Like he was so just in my business, man. Like he was in my business. So when I first came into the rooms, I was still with my ex-girlfriend, and she was like smoking weed all the time. And of course I couldn't share about that at a meeting, or else I don't know what would happen. I ended up telling that sponsor that like, oh, she smokes weed. And he literally said, he's like, oh my God, well, tonight I want to come with you to your house and break up with her for you. Yeah. Like, who the fuck does that? It's just like so, it was just, I was like, whoa.
I mean, your therapist is recruiting you, bringing you, literally physically bringing you into a cult that 5 years after leaving, you're still trying to get it the fuck out of your head. Wait, first, can I ask real quick, are you still with that therapist?
Technically, I graduate, like she graduated me from therapy. I mean, there's a whole arc to this story. It's going to get crazier, but technically she still is my therapist. She didn't actually know. It was almost like the system just like had told her this is what you do with someone that's like struggling with drugs and alcohol. So
she hadn't been to NA herself or AA?
Nope.
Oh, she was just told that's the solution. She didn't know. She didn't go.
Nope. She was like, oh, that was my first meeting too. It was just passed along to her that like, oh, if someone's struggling with these issues, this is the place that maybe you would suggest for them to go. And so through my journey, I actually ended up teaching my therapist.
Yeah.
And so she ended up kind of like yours, she helped me to deprogram from it eventually when it came time for that to happen. And then she also started letting me know, she's like, yeah, and I've noticed that like there were a couple of other therapists that also are like 12-step members, and they're like crossing all sorts of like boundaries with clients, and like, I don't know, like this is starting to seem a little like fishy. So,
if anybody has a therapist who's in 12-step, run. It's like the most dangerous. Run.
Yeah.
So wait, now let's go back really quickly. Your sponsor Did you let your sponsor into your home to your girlfriend? What happened?
Fuck no. Fuck no. I was like, dude, no. I'm like, if I break up with her, like, I'm going to do that on my own terms. Like, I don't need some, like, pseudo person other than me to, like, make that decision. Thank you very much. Like, I'm not smoking weed. I'm not doing drugs. I'm being a good, obedient little cult member. You cannot cross the threshold, you vampire.
Totally. Totally. You know, it's so funny. After leaving AA, as I'm sure you saw or heard, I mean, I got assessed as autistic and later ADHD. And I think that's part of the reason why I got locked in so deep into the ideology is because I heard other individuals who I'm going to assume now that I understand neurodivergence, neurospiciness, is that the people that I was hearing in the rooms talk about alcoholism, I do it in quotes, right? Because they were talking about the way that they were their entire lives, how they thought, how they felt, how they socialized, how their sensory system experienced the world, hypersensitivities, all these things. And they called it all alcoholism in the rooms I was in. Now I think I was identifying with autism and ADHD, or even someone who was autistic and ADHD, which has been my assessment. And they were saying it's all alcoholism. And they were saying these things that really rang true to my childhood as well. Like you said, like we didn't get the rule book for life or the handbook for life, or socializing was different or whatever. They called that all alcoholism, like as if you were alcoholic before you ever picked up a drink, because alcoholic is a fundamental thing about who you are. Alcohol is just on top of that. Where now I understand it, that alcohol use disorder is actually your behavior of drinking. And what's underneath is who I am naturally, that can be optimized for sure through nutrition, through movement, through sleep. There are ways to optimize my nervous system. But a lot of like who I am neurologically is not fixed because neuroplasticity, but is more or less stable, right? And that's not to be prayed away, inventoried away, look at my part and try to find a doorknob or a higher power of my understanding to shift. It's more about learning how I operate and not trying to conform to society, try to be myself. But then you find yourselves in AA and it's like conform to the group think here and pray away your natural tendencies. But it feels like it fits because we always knew we were different.
Yep. 100,000% in NA, sort of similar to your untreated alcoholism. What they would say to me is, that's because you're an addict. These behaviors are that way. That's because you're an addict, right? So that was kind of their way of like shoehorning you into leaning more into the ideology, right? And they also have these things called the 5 things in NA, where it's like, go to meetings, work the steps, get a sponsor, have a higher power, and be of service. They were only suggestions, right? But those were the 5 requirements if you really wanted to belong in the rooms. And there
not
were also,
die.
And not die. Oh yeah, that too, right? That little exclamation point there. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We suggest you wear a parachute if you jump out of the airplane. It's just a suggestion.
It's just
it's
a
a suggestion.
Yeah, right. You don't have to do it. God.
But you'll die if you don't, but you don't have to.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So what ended up happening as we go more into my story is that about 4 months in, my mom had really graciously paid for a international trip with me and my ex, and we went to Europe, we went to Great Britain, we ended up going to Ireland and doing a pilgrimage along like my ancestors' journey during the potato famine and coming to America. Really cool. The process of being on that trip, my mom cooked spaghetti one night for us, the cousins, and my ex felt like her portion of spaghetti, there was like less sauce than the rest of the family. So she freaked out and started like cussing my mom out in front of the rest of the family. It was like the crack in my brainwashing that happened with leaving NA, where it was like, the way I think of it is like there's this like vase that's on a shelf, right? And so there are all these little, like maybe little hints that something's amiss, but I'm like dancing around trying to like keep the vase upright as there's like an earthquake starting to happen, and then there's a really big tremor and the vase goes whoop and like falls off and then smashes into like a million pieces on the ground. And so it's like, you could try to like glue the face back together, but really you never can. It's like, and that's the whole thing. Once I see like the real situation, it's really impossible to like go back. I couldn't ever go back into an NA meeting, and I never really will, and I never want to, because it's just I see the shattered vase lying all over the ground, right?
It's like the Wizard of Oz. You pulled the curtain and you're like, oh.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And so the same type of thing happened with that relationship. And I knew, I was like, I need to end this relationship. I need to get out. Like a month after that, I met Jake on that camping trip, and like we became fast friends. I rent rooms in my house, and I met him. I'm like, you're the perfect person to like live with me. And so he moved into my house, and I would say right around this time, something started to shift within me. And so, like you, like I had a lot of fun at first during my time in the rooms, right? Like I went on camping trips, I enjoyed going to conventions, I felt this sense of community and camaraderie. But what started to happen was that as I really dove into working the steps, the shame and guilt language of the steps started permeating my being. And it started off as a low whisper. You worked your 4 steps. So now you have a concrete list of your character defects. So these are things that you can start to look at and start working on to it. And then it started building and building into this like sort of quiet roar. So about from 8 months until the time that I left, I started waking up in the morning, and my internal dialogue, which to be fair had oftentimes been pretty cruel to me throughout my life, even before I got into the rooms, it just started getting ramped up to 5 times 8 times 10. I would wake up in the morning, and it would be like talking to me like, look at all of these character defects you have. Look at how much you've let down your family. Look at how much pain you've caused your family. And it just got louder and louder and louder, and I couldn't turn it off, and it was like spinning, and all of the input that I had from my friends in the rooms was like, go to more meetings, go to different meetings, maybe try working the steps more, try getting a different sponsor. It was never directing me outside of the rooms, outside of the ideology. Hey, maybe this like might have helped you at first, but like maybe it's starting to like cause a little bit of harm. So then COVID happened, and we're all on lockdown, and to kind of preserve the like pod of like my mom and my stepdad and me, like I moved back into their house, the Zoom meetings started. And so then I was like on meetings all the time. I was just like it was just on in the background all the time. And because there wasn't a lot going on, I don't know, like 4 service positions. I was the secretary. I was admitting people into the Zoom and doing all of the managing of that. And I just fell into the worst mental health crisis. It's hard to even put into words how dominant this cruel, bullying internal dialogue became in my mind, and I couldn't shut it off. And there would be days where I just would lay on the bed and I would just be sobbing for hours. I couldn't shut it off. And then it got really, really dark. It was everything I said about what my dialogue was telling me, but then it started turning into, the world would just be so much better off if you didn't exist. Like your family would be better off, your friends would be better off, you wouldn't be missed. And then that just started getting louder and louder and louder. And I remember I remember a night I was like laying on the office floor in a ball, just like wailing and crying, and my mom like kind of holding me from behind and crying with me. And I just remember telling her, I'm like, Mom, I don't want to be here anymore. Like I've had enough. Like I'm just such a failure. I've just let you down and I've caused so much pain. And um and she was crying too, and she's like, I forgive you for all of that. Like you're trying to, you're doing your best to try to heal, and just make me one promise, make me one promise that you won't kill yourself. And I'm like, you're really gonna make me make that promise? Like I really, really want to. She's like, yes, you have to promise me that you won't kill yourself. And I was like, all right, Mom, I promise. And so, meanwhile, during this time, I had one day a week where I was hanging out. It was like me and Jake's time. So we would like go mountain biking. We always had these really great conversations. We would talk for hours about personal development and trying to, like, I don't know, heal and become our best version. But during this time, I was just in so much pain that I remember talking to him about considering ending my life, and he was just like my mom, just really like, hey man, like I need you here, like we can work through this, we can heal from this, I'm here for you. And I remember Jake said something, it seemed so obvious looking back on it, but when he said it to me, it was like one of the most profound statements of love that anyone could have made. And especially coming from an ideology like the 12 steps, which what they say in NA is don't use no matter what. And so that was like the whole thing. Don't use no matter what. And so in this context for me, no matter what meant kill yourself. It was like, you have to stay sober and you have to stay clean, even if that means taking your own life before you use drugs. And what Jake said to me was, he was like, you know what, man, I would really rather you smoke a joint and not kill yourself rather than force yourself to kill yourself and stay clean. And it was just the most like radical statement of like love and like true love and connection. Like someone really cares about me just being here, and that uh the ideology and maintaining it is less important. It was like, oh, what's the saying in the rooms of like principles before personalities? It's like, no, motherfucker, like personality in this circumstance over
Yeah.
principles.
You
And
matter. You
yeah,
matter.
and even though he said that, I still was just, I couldn't take it anymore. And so I, one day, without going into too terribly much detail, I found myself, there's a little tiny town called Davenport, and it has these giant cliffs. And I found myself, I'm like, you know what, I'm done. And I drove out to these cliffs and I like tried to make peace with life the best I could. And I took off running and I ran as fast as I could to the end of this cliff. And then I literally, like, it was like it was a pronounced hallucination. I saw my mom like in the sky, and she screamed at me, "You promised you wouldn't!" And I like collapsed and fell, like I tripped and I fell before the cliff edge. And I was just like covered in dirt and I was just sobbing. Like people came over and like called someone, called 911 or whatever. I was taken to the hospital, and holy shit, it was so scary. And so I went to the hospital, and I had time in the hospital to myself. I had time away from the Zoom meetings. I had time away from the program. I had time away from the service positions. I had time away from the steps. And that was the crack in my brainwashing. It was like, if I'm being told by these people that this is the solution, And I have been literally like staying clean, working the program, doing the things that I'm being told to do. What if it's the program? What if it's the thing that they're saying is the solution is causing me all of this pain? And you know what? It was. That after I got out of the hospital, my life has done nothing but improve ever since.
When you were in the hospital, did you stop going to NA after that?
I still had my service positions and I was still kind of like brainwashed enough to like, oh, I'm supposed to finish out my service positions. But so I had like, I would say there were 2 weeks in there where still had my secretary positions. But what I did, I was angry at that point. I felt like I had been burned. I felt like I had been lied to. I felt pissed off. And there are just so many more examples. You know, I remember go ahead.
It was killing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was literally killing you.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And I remember there was this one time where because I would share about this in meetings sometimes. And there was this one old timer that I would just get up in the meetings and I would be like crying and I would talk about like wanting to die and being miserable and all of this stuff. That's not the message. I'm not sharing the message. And so he said to me one time, he's like, John, I wish you would stop getting up here and sharing the mess instead of the message. And I'm sure he would have been one of the people who probably would say some have to die so that others can live, or some variation of, oh, he wasn't working the program, or he wasn't doing this, or he wasn't doing that. I would just be a footnote to incorporate into their share about how the program doesn't fail people or whatever.
It's giving emotional control. We can't have you feeling and talking that way. You have to be this way.
Yep.
And also like, yeah, making the evidence of it not working be evidence that it does work, because then somehow backwards in some weird cultanese or cult language, it's like, that was your disease. You weren't capable of being constitutionally honest with yourself, or whatever that line is. Incapable of being constitutionally honest with yourself. Oh, he didn't do all of his amends. He didn't give it all over. Oh, he was still holding on. He was denial about this. It's like, no, bro. Like, the treatment is harmful. Like, when we go, like, if somebody has cancer and they go to chemotherapy, there's no delusion that chemotherapy is without harm.
Yep.
It might be what helps save their life. It might be what is the final nail in, but you go into it knowing that there's harm. Just like if you have a surgery, you know that there's a probability with some surgeries that you might not make it out of it. With any surgery, there's a chance you might not wake up, or you might even wake up while you're still being operated on and unable to move or speak, God forbid. That's like almost scarier than dying, right? Is being alive and like feeling whatever. So there just is no warning label on NA or on AA about the potential harms of the treatment, what that might look like, and when to know when you should bail. Not bail out of life, bail out of the harmful treatment and try something different that's not making you want to literally run off a fucking cliff. Like, it is horrific. It is horrific.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, and maybe even have like a little bit of like a moment of silence or a couple of deep breaths for like your friend. I know your story of your friend, and every time I hear you talk about it, I just, I'm so sorry.
It's not even my friend. It's all of our friends, because we all know people. We all know people, and it was almost you. Your friends almost knew somebody. We all know people who have it in their heads and don't make it.
Yeah.
We all know them.
Yeah.
Or we know of them. Maybe we weren't friends with the old timer who had like 30 years up, and then he just wasn't ever in the meeting again, and then we find out that he took his life.
Yeah.
We all know those people. And it's just, we can't ever talk, and it's always positioned, like the branding on it, literally the marketing. I'm so choked up right now. Like, literally choked.
Sorry. Sorry.
I just need to like breathe for a minute.
Yeah.
It's all like rebranded as the disease, which literally doesn't even exist.
Doesn't.
And if you dare say it, you're the one killing people if you dare say it.
Right. Yep. I don't see any other disease that exists that looks like what they're trying to portray as a disease in the rooms. And that's because it's not a disease. Like, substance use disorder, like you said, it describes the pattern of behavior. But what I really believe is we're talking about forming and breaking habits. That's what we're talking about. And we're habit making creatures. If we drink enough alcohol for a certain period of time, our body will get adjusted to that. And so, of course, it will feel challenging to make a change at first. But the fact of the matter is that we all hold that propensity, that capability to do it if we view it in the correct way, which is like, I'm empowered. I can do this. I can find real friends that can like help walk me through it. But if I think of it as a disease and set up like mechanism of success, or success has to be in terms of like the amount of time, like you can't ever slip, you can't ever, you have to just maintain your clean time for the rest of your life. And then if you don't do that, then you've thrown it all away and you might as well go hard, right? Because like you lost all your time. It's like literally just this like regurgitating revolving door of people coming in and trying, internalizing a harmful ideology of like powerlessness and constructing an identity around addict and alcoholic. When the program fails, you built up all this harmful shit. So of course it like leads back into itself. On the one hand, it's a genius marketing strategy, but it's so fucking harmful. It's so harmful. And on top of that, all the steps is based upon this like religious nature of like sin and shame and guilt and you're bad and just like trying to clear away
you must
your
confess.
Right. I really feel like the steps are like the equivalent of like trying to clear away your engrams in Scientology, where it's like you think you're trying to get to step 12 and then your defects will be gone, but no, it's actually a circle, and you're constantly focusing on your defects and you're constantly looking at all of the bad, harmful aspects of yourself, and it never ends, you know?
Right. You're on a never-ending treadmill. Your self-esteem is in the gutter, and you're exploiting yourself for free labor forever because you're not recovering. You never recover. That's why it's forever. Recovery is temporary by definition, right? That's what it means.
Yeah.
It's a period of time, a finite period
Right.
of time. We don't know because healing isn't the same for everybody, but it's a finite period of time. But AA is forever, so it's not being in recovery, it's being in forevery. It's fucking forevery, man.
Yeah.
I also just want to say before because this is such a vibe, I'm having so much fun, even though I'm
Me
all over the
too.
place.
Me too.
I want to say, I'm really glad that you're alive. Like, I'm so glad that you are alive. And I just felt so strongly when you were like running and that you felt like the presence of your mom there and you got smacked down. And I'm just so glad that whatever that was, let's call it a miracle. I don't know. Without even being religious, there is unknown, mysterious things happening in the world that we cannot know. And I am just so glad that whether it was you, your higher self, your mom, a fucking doorknob, I don't care what it was that tripped you or stopped you. I'm just so glad that you're here and that you survived NA, that you survived 12 steps. A lot of people don't, as we said, and I'm glad that you are a success story. You made it.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you. I'm glad I'm here too. I talk to Jake all the time, and I'm like, my greatest vision of like, not that I believe in hell or whatever, but my greatest vision of hell is like would be to float above my life if I had killed myself and seen everything that happened after I left and being like forced to see it, because my life has like, I can't even tell you how magical it got, but we're not there yet. We're not at that part of the story. That's coming up next.
Little teaser,
um,
little teaser.
yes.
So
Go ahead.
you went to the hospital. You had time away from the ideology, so the brainwashing cracked. I think I heard you say you may
Yep.
have fulfilled your commitments for 2 more weeks or whatever. You were still a little bit in AA. Tell us about you separating from. How did that work? You officially
Yeah.
leaving 12 step.
Yeah, what happened was when I got out for a couple of weeks, I did like a few more secretary positions. And what I did, I remember I had this like I was pissed. Like I was pissed because I damn near almost died. And I like at that point too, I just started trying to drink in all of like the alternative recovery literature, bought like all of these books. I'm like AA Cult or Cure, like a bunch of Stanton Peele stuff, like discovered harm reduction, looked for any YouTube videos that had like a dissenting opinion. I was just like, okay, like I've seen that this is harming me and I need to see what else exists out there. But I still had this secretary position, and my life almost immediately started getting better. And so at that time for my position, I wouldn't go to any other meetings during that week, right? This is like a meeting, online meeting in my town every morning. It was pretty small. The people that were in there like were going every morning, right, to take their daily spiritual medicine or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And so I'm not there, right? And so then I would like log on as the meeting secretary, just like smiling ear to ear, even if I was kind of like fake smiling to just kind of like stick it to them, but like I was coming and looking visibly happy and filled up. And I would be like, welcome to the blah 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 meeting of Narcotics Anonymous. My name's John and I'm a human being. Like it's just like not identifying as an addict and just like being visibly so full of life. And I saw the looks of all the people in the meeting, just like, how dare he? Then after that little period of like feeling like I kind of socked it to him a little bit, I just left. I was just like, I'm done. You can figure out like have someone stand in for you. That was how I eventually left. I will jump in here with another little interesting tidbit to my story. Before I started having really serious mental health issues, but I remembered at one point because I had made a change when I went into the program. And so I started brainstorming. I was like, what were the things that I used to really love to do before I was having this relationship with substances? Maybe those things I still might enjoy other than roller coasters. I always have like loved roller coasters ever since I was 6. Like I knew that was there. But I remembered when I was about 10 and my mom gave me a choice. She was like, all right, you're going to go to summer camp, and here's 2 choices of camps. So on the one, we have this nice Christian youth summer camp up in Northern California, further up north. Or here's this quirky, weird circus camp. You could learn circus skills or how to be a clown or whatever. So I chose this circus camp, and talking about that whole mystery of the universe or whatever you want to call it. I do believe that there's mystery and magic that exists out in the world. I took the bus to this camp and I got off the bus and the counselor said, here's all of the different activities. There's juggling over here, there's stilt walking over here, there's clown class over there, there's unicycling over there. And there was just some sort of force that was like drew me to the unicycle. And I just was like, okay, for the week I'm here, I'm going to learn how to ride it. And I'm going to show my mom by the end of this week that I can like ride without holding on to anything, right? And I did it. And I showed her. And so then she bought me one of my own after that. And I just rode it all around my town. I would ride it to school. I would ride it everywhere I possibly could. I fell in love with it. And then one day, I was riding along and this car full of high school students drives by and they throw a beer can at me and they're like, get off the road, freak! Stopped riding after that. I put that into the background. I'm like, what if I am a freak? What if I don't fit in? Because I've always, to a certain extent, felt like I'm an alien. I'm a guy, but I'm like a sensitive natured guy. I'm kind of a weirdo. I felt a lot of shame about all of that. Done so much work on that. Totally feel like I'm in a different place with it now. So I stopped writing.
Yeah, self-acceptance is the vibe. Yeah,
Right?
motherfucker, get your weird
Right?
on.
Yeah. 1,000,000%. And so when actually towards the beginning of my time in NA, I was like, I used to really love like unicycling. Like, I wonder if unicycle.com exists, and I log on to unicycle.com and I see that they make 36-inch wheeled unicycles. And I'm like, that's a giant wheel. Like, that seems fucking awesome. So I bought one. I would ride to meetings. I would ride along there. There's this beautiful bike path that like runs along the top of this cliff in my city, and I would just like ride along that, and just like felt so lifted up with joy. And then like at one point I was riding and I was like, I wonder what would happen if I like put my headphones on and like played music. And then when I fused the unicycling with the music, I just had to start dancing, man. I was like, I'm a child of the rave just like you. So I'm like putting on dance music and like riding all around. And that to me, it was just like this, what it really felt like was, it was like this feeling of flow, that it felt like everything that I was looking for in my problematic substance use, but not like doing drugs. There was no past, there was no future. I'm riding along the ocean, I'm jamming out to music, I'm like riding alongside the pelicans. I just felt so filled up with joy. That was something I rediscovered when I was in the rooms. And so I would like ride my unicycle to all these meetings and kind of got known as like the dancing unicycle man. What I had really gotten in touch with was I started zeroing in on the fact that I feel way more happy and way more fulfilled dancing on my unicycle by the ocean than going to an NA meeting. Like, it was just night and day. I was like, I just enjoy this so much more. So like I started following that thread, and I had actually, unfortunately, the pandemic happened, but I had already bought my plane ticket. I came up with this dream that I wanted to ride my unicycle around the world for 3 years through 19 countries. And I was going to like start in Auckland, New Zealand, and like ride. Anyway, just drew this whole map, built this like pannier rig on my unicycle. It's the wheel, and then there's like a bag hanging in front of the wheel, and then a bag behind the wheel, and like packing all my camping gear. And then the pandemic happened, and I'm like, well, shit, this is not the appropriate time to do that. Then I started like blasting music and dancing, and it was just having a grand time. That carried me through a lot of the time, especially as I was like leaving the rooms, and was a bastion of joy during that time. But I also really realized that like I had hit a low point with my mental health, to say the least. And so really like dove into therapy, like I said before, like talked about my whole experience with the ideology and leaving it behind, and that therapist really worked with me on that journey. I'll try to describe it to you. That self-hatred, that sense of worthiness had been there for so long and was so like pronounced that I needed to do sometimes multiple sessions of therapy every week. And what my healing process looked like was like my therapist would book me like at night. I had been in therapy, I mean, pretty much my whole life with different ones, and no one really knew how to help me heal the way that she did. She was not sitting across from me anymore in the room. She sat right there on the couch beside me, and she took my hand and just took me on this journey of bringing up all that darkness, because she's like, you have to bring the stuff up. You have to feel the stuff with someone that you love in order to transmute it and start to construct a version of healing within yourself. It went for so many sessions where I couldn't even say the words "I'm worthy." I would just like go into session and I would take her hand and I would go, "I'm She's like, yes, John, that's it. Like, say it again. And I'm just like, just trying so hard. Sometimes it would just be like screaming in all this pain. And over time, I did it over and over and over and over until I could like plant my feet on the floor, power pose. I worth it. Like feel it with every core of my being. It just got to the point to where one day she said, John, there's nothing wrong with you, and there never was anything wrong with you. And she was like, I have seen hundreds and hundreds of clients. And you do realize, by the way, that like no one wants to do this work. Like most people can come in and they can talk about their problems, and I can try to encourage them to embark upon this like this level of work. No one wants to do it. This is like oftentimes why people like distract themselves with all of these different things. There's to a greater or lesser degrees, we all have room to heal, right? And she's like, you're at the top of the list of people that did that. And you don't need me anymore. I'm here for you if you need me, but like you carry that torch out into the world and you live it, and maybe you can help someone else along the way. Who knows? And so that was definitely like the pinnacle of like the deep healing work that I did as I left the rooms. Now, it wasn't, things have gotten better, but it also wasn't sunshine and rainbows the whole, like it was really hard sometimes too. So this is a really fucked up part about leaving. A month after I left, I was laying down, I was like having a nap, and my mom was having like a nap too, and just having a relaxing like lazy afternoon during the pandemic. And my mom like felt her stomach, and she was like, my stomach feels like I'm in pain, and like I feel really bloated. And I was like, dang mom, like your stomach is like swelling up. And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna get this like checked out. And so she goes to the doctor. The doctor examines her, sends her in for a PET scan, and she gets diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And she had had a blood disease ever since adolescence. She was 70, 71 at this time. And so she had been like having to have her platelets tracked and taken like a medication to kind of maintain it, and lived an amazing, like full, wonderful life. But she got this diagnosis, and so she started doing treatment. Now, I had very recently left the rooms, and with every fabric of my being, I felt like by my leaving, I had constructed a relationship with my higher power that was very like, you do the steps, you do the program, and God will provide gifts in your life. But if you leave, if you don't do the program, God's going to punish me. And so I believed with every fabric of my being that I gave my mom cancer, because I left the rooms. It took multiple very long conversations with her, of her explaining to me her illness and explaining to me that like this had been a potential of something that could happen for far longer than I had like been in contact with the ideology. And that she was actually one of the very first people who let me know. She was like, if this is the type of like relationship that is encouraged for people to have with a higher power, it sounds like you were in a cult. So that was really, really, really helpful to hear from like my person, from like my mom that like I was just so like close to. and
Yeah.
and unfortunately over the next year, it was just one of the most aggressive forms of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She went to Stanford. She got all the best treatment that a human being could possibly get. And the treatments became more and more fringe. And she eventually was like, I'm not going to keep subjecting myself to this, and I'm going to go on hospice. And I ended up holding my mom's hand and looking into her eyes, because she did the Death with Dignity Act. Instead of just like letting it get worse, she took what I call like the nightshade potion. She set a date and a time, and one of her best friends was like a nurse, and so the nurse was there to administer the cocktail, and I was there on her left, and my stepdad was there on her right, and we lit a candle, and she read some poetry and put on a playlist of like her favorite songs. And she passed away, and she was just the strongest example of bravery that I've ever experienced personally in my life. And she was like, I have no regrets. I lived my life to the fullest that I could. I don't have to be scared because I'm here with you guys, and I'm ready. And she passed away with a smile on her face. During that time, because I left the rooms and because I had so much time on my hands, like we do when we leave, right? I wasn't on meetings all the time anymore. I had so much more time to spend with my family and my loved ones and pursue like passion projects. Like I rode my unicycle like 104 miles in a day and like filmed that and like rode to the Monterey Bay Aquarium and back. I was able to tap into like, who am I? What do I want to do? If I'm going to be of service, what's my paradigm of how I want to do that, instead of some cult's vision of that,
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just thought that was like just such a wild thing, that I thought that I like gave my mom cancer because I stopped participating in the rooms. Like, what the fuck?
I kind of always joke because the cult rule number 1 is that we're not a cult. And
Yep.
cult rule number 2, whatever it is, it's your fault, right?
Yep.
You are wrong. The system's not wrong. You are wrong. So
Yep.
that's the indoctrination. That's what my brain was set up to do. It's always my fault. There's something wrong with me. If something's not happening right, it's because I didn't pray right enough. I wasn't surrendered enough. I didn't let it go. I didn't do this. I didn't help somebody or whatever. So it makes sense to me that your default is what the cult indoctrinate us into, which is if something goes wrong, it's my fault. What's my part? How am I to blame? Oh, there's a trauma. Oh, like I got assaulted. What's my part in that?
Yeah.
How am I at fault? They call it like self-responsibility, but it's self-flagellation. You're always wrong. It's keeping us down and locked and in control. As heartbreaking as that is to hear, and I love that your mom helped you with the awareness on that. I mean, that's part of the harm of the ideology, is it's no matter what, it's your fault. And that's a horrific way to be going around, that you somehow failed your higher power, so your mom's sick. What the fuck?
Yep.
Like, I'm really glad that your mom saw that was bullshittery, and that helped you wake up even further to that, what you were recovering from, which is a cult. And I just think that's such a beautiful story, that you actually escaped in time to be with your mom in her last moments and really to honor her. It's so bittersweet, but it's beautiful that you got to be there for her. You weren't in a meeting sharing about it. You were there holding her hand.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. And another really, really beautiful aspect to what you just said is my mom knew that I was going to be okay because I left. And because I deprogrammed and am still very much deprogramming, but like went on that journey and started healing, like really actually healing, like she died knowing that I was going to be and am okay. She didn't have to worry anymore. She was worried for so long, ever since I was a kid, because I just had this horrible perception of myself that I was less than other people and that I wasn't worthy of love. And she didn't have to worry about that anymore. And what a gift, that's so amazing. Sometimes on a starry night, I just like visualize her as like this like aurora borealis doing like cartwheels through the cosmos and smiling, just like knowing that like you're doing great. It's just so amazing. Since her passing away too, I mean, my life has just absolutely taken off. I got connected with this group of people, fellow roller coaster enthusiasts that I had like followed the creators of it, like their website ever since I was 8 years old, but I was too shy to reach out to them to say like, hey, your like videos of these coasters mean so much to me. But finally I got the courage to like write them an email and say that. And then they were like, well, we're not really doing like public trips anymore, but like you seem like a cool dude. Like we're doing it privately. So like you're invited. And so now like every year I meet up with like my coaster buddies and we like travel all over the world and like ride roller coasters together. Like serious dream that has come true. So this is another aspect that I really feel like is so important to highlight and mention. What AA and 12-step programs get right, in a sense, it's the community hook, right? It's like we like, other than hermits, generally like human beings want to feel like they belong and are a part of something and seen, and so it has that hook of like that aspect of it. But the problem is that the dogma and everything underneath that is like harmful, right? And so what I started doing was going in search of like healthy community. So like I discovered that I love playing tennis. The tennis is like my family sport. I would watch it with my mom, and like a bunch of my family members play tennis, and I started playing and learned that I love to play tennis. And so I like got involved in a tennis group and like have made friends in the tennis group. I never would have thought this, but like at one point, someone who I was living with was really into like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they were like, John, maybe you might actually like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, okay, this seems a little scary. But like I went and I tried doing jiu-jitsu. And what I discovered is that I fucking love jujitsu. I suck at jujitsu. I've been a white belt for like 3 years because it's not just about me learning jujitsu. It's about healthy containers to confront fear. So my life had been dominated by fear for so
Yeah.
long, ever since I had been bullied. And so now I try to, in a healthy context, confront that fear. So like, yeah, probably what's going to happen is some big like tatted up purple belt is going to like take my back and like choke me out from behind, but he's not going to hurt me, you know what I mean? He's not going to like go so far to where like he's actually going to hurt me, and that's not his intention. So it's like confronting something on the surface that seems really scary. That's why I have my painting of my lion on the back, is like to remind the lions to remind me of my courage. The sea turtle over there is to remind me of flow, and like don't be too overly ambitious. Like go with the flow, take it easy.
Yeah.
Um,
I love
but
it.
and I love doing jujitsu, and it also taught me that physical touch is like a huge love language of mine. So then I discovered a style of dancing called contact improvisation. That's like the yin to jujitsu's yang. I started going to contact improv classes, and one day I did the warm-up exercise, and this lovely lady kind of danced over to me, and then we started dancing. And contact improv is like a vertical dance form, but you can also do it like horizontally. And all of a sudden we were like, oh, this feels nice. And then we kind of melted to the floor and spent the whole like 2 hours like of class cuddling with each other. Now I have a girlfriend. And so it's just like the more that I've looked for and sought out healthy forms of community that are not based upon some dogma, but just some interest, then it's like it doesn't matter. Like I've made connections based upon who I am, not based upon being a part of a religious cult and having like a purity culture of like not touching a drink or not doing a drug or whatever. It's based upon who we are as people, and the nuance in that. And then also creating community. My house is arranged in a way that's just like oozes like creating community vibes. Like the whole floor plan is like circular. I've hosted events myself at like my house in the dance community. And so all of a sudden it's like I felt this pain and loneliness from leaving the rooms, and then I like stepped into actually cultivating myself what I felt like was missing in my life. And And it's just, the journey has just been so profoundly and healing. And I just would have been so sad if I had committed suicide, that I would miss out on this whole journey. And like, it's just, it really feels like it's just getting started. It's like, what do I want to create in the world? What type of force do I want to be? There's so much possibility. What I like to call 12-step programs is the glass ceiling society. I thought that I was living my life to the fullest while I was in it. While I was in that fishbowl, I thought that this was it. My purpose was to be of service to addicts in the program of Narcotics Anonymous. And I realized that no, that's their fucking purpose projected onto me. Fuck that. Like, you can have it. You can take it back. That's not my purpose. And it makes me so sad because I still have a few people that I knew in the rooms on my social media that like were kind to me or whatever. We don't interact. I see certain posts, like every day someone posts another day down, just like just scraping to just get by one day without like using. And for me, like, I don't count time anymore, but like, just for frame of reference, like, it's been 10 years since I've smoked crack. And I don't think about it at all because I don't identify as a person who is fighting against crack or an ex-crack addict or any of that shit. Like, it's just, I changed my identity. It feels like I'm a
Totally.
different person now.
Totally. I'm curious because if somebody's been listening to this and they're at that place now that you were at, where they're in 12 step, whether it's AA, NA, or one of the other sister cults, and they're banging their head against the wall and they're feeling like it's not working and it's them and they can't keep doing it. If they're in that mood right now, what would you tell them? Or what would you go back and tell yourself when you were in that?
Oh my God. That you're not broken, that you've been fed a paradigm of thinking about yourself that isn't based upon fact, and it's based upon shame and guilt and fear, and that you absolutely can heal, truly, truly heal. And it might be really, really, really fucking hard, but there are allies out there that really, really do care about you. And I definitely, I would not be where I'm at unless I left the rooms. And I really believe that you can leave and deprogram and also not fall back into problematic whatever use. Like, it's possible. And honestly, I'm going to tell you a little secret. It's likely. It's likely. It's likely. I was a person who just every thought in my brain was that I didn't want to be here anymore and that there's no hope. I actually gave that part of myself, that seriously fucked up inner critic, I gave it a name. I named it Brutus. And Brutus is, you don't have to let Brutus take the steering wheel of your car anymore. Like, you can put Brutus in the back seat and learn how to take the wheel of your car as the, what I call like the aware ego, the calm, centered, aware ego. And we have all the other parts of ourselves that'll try to get in the seat and take the wheel for a little bit, but like, they don't have to win. The rooms really, really held me back in the end. And there are, there really are, like, even I also believe like support has come in such handy for me. So actually, Stanton Peele, and I feel like it isn't talked enough. Like, he created a I think it's called the Life Process Program, and essentially it's this online way of moving beyond a problematic habit, that has like different tiers. And so there's just the online modules with like really in depth, like the questions. I'm sure, I know you've created like questions for people to answer, but they go really in depth. Instead of it being positioned as like guiding you into a cult religion, all of the modules are based upon things like values, motivation, maturity, community. And these are all oriented towards like, who are you? Like, who are you? And what does your life look like? And what are you trying to create in this world? And I really got to know myself on the level that I did through that. The second tier is the one that I pay for, and that one has I call it group. It's like a weekly group led by someone who's like trained in like cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's just a rad human being. It's the antithesis of like a meeting. It's a conversation. It's like you go in and we all just talk. Right. And oftentimes a lot of it is not even having to do with like substance use, although it can be. And if something were to happen where like, I don't know, God forbid, if I did some substance that didn't resonate with me, I could like talk about it without this fear of like, oh, you got to pick up a white chip and you got to feel all this shame. There's a sense of safety that I can navigate through my own life experience honestly and be supported and encouraged. It just vibes so much more with me personally. There's so many avenues of like healthy support if that's where you're at and what you're looking for. I know I got to the point too where it was like I wanted room to spread my wings and fly and not feel like I needed or support anymore. And so it's like now it's like if I'm craving connection, like I want that connection just because I want that connection and not because I'm in need of something to maintain my recovery. I just remember so clearly that feeling of not wanting to be here anymore, and I can't possibly I can't explain just how good life has gotten. I could talk for hours about it because it's my world is a world filled with possibility, and I'm just really grateful that I like stuck in there, and I totally believe that like you can too. You really can. Like I really believe that like healing is possible, and that like I don't know, for me, I feel like love is the fabric that connects us to each other. It's love because of whoever it is that I love, because of who they are, not some cult they belong to. It's not this conditional thing. It's like I see you because I see you. Like and nothing less. I Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's there is something that I wanted to talk about that I hadn't yet. So when I was 14, I was really, really lonely. I was a sophomore in high school. My only like best friend at that time had kind of like started drifting away and like becoming more like one of the cool kids that fit in and everything. And they had all started smoking cannabis, and I was desperately lonely. Still hadn't like healed my sense of unworthiness. I kind of just didn't really know a lot about drugs other than like don't do them from like Dare and everything. I just gotten so sad that like when that friend offered me some cannabis, it just like sucked me right in. And I thought that in me doing so, I would like fit in with the cool kids. I still was like, I don't know, weird and awkward or whatever. But like, so I just found myself now, it was like when I discovered cannabis, it was like this release valve. It felt like to so much pain and depression and feelings of unworthiness. And so I really dove in and formed a habit with it really quickly that was pretty destructive. My mom, when she started like smelling it on me when I would come home, she confronted me about it in more of an adversarial way. So it was like every hug became like a sniff test, and she would search my room when I wasn't in it. And so if she had been able to maybe like have a conversation with me of like, hey, like, I love you, son. I'm worried about you. I've noticed this, that, and the other thing. But it wasn't that, which caused me to isolate myself more and maybe start like ditching class, and my grades were slipping. And I had this perception of like, the fuck is the point of going to school if I just feel like shit all the time? I don't have friends. My mom now is like not on my side. I kind of spiraled and I ended up getting shipped off to a wilderness program and then a troubled teen industry cult. The boarding school that I went to was in the very, very northern tip of Idaho. It was under the umbrella of the CEDU network of schools. I didn't find this out until like recently, like within the last year or two. And I always thought like CEDU stood for like see as the staff are acting and do as they do, or some iteration of that. But what I now realize is that CEDU actually stood for Charles E. Diedrich University, and Charles E. Diedrich was the founder of Synanon, which if you haven't like watched any like documentaries on Synanon, like check that shit out. It was like this twisted cult that was essentially Charles E. Diedrich went to 12
AA
step
member
meetings.
who goes
Yeah,
rogue as fuck.
yeah, yeah. And he's like, you know what? Like, this program is being way too soft on addicts and alcoholics. Like I'm gonna create something and like really like tough love the fuck out of them. And so essentially I kind of like have through my deprogramming journey seen that like, yeah, I was in the room for 18 months, but also like when I was 14, I came in contact with another really potent iteration of like that ideology, but like blown up into like I'm actually gonna send you like a short 10-minute video of essentially the attack therapy, and you can like post it in the description if you want. But like so essentially, attack therapy, it's like a meeting where all the chairs are in a circle, right? And of course, because it's a cult, it's a high control group, it's all that stuff. There's all of these really like unnecessary and fucked up like rules and regulations, right? So like you'll get in trouble if your shirt isn't tucked in when you're in the dining hall, and you'll get in trouble if hug outside of like designated hugging time at the end of the night, and like all of this stuff. So what would happen is like a lot of these cults, and in a sense, kind of like 12 step, the members are all policing each other. So the kids get like rewarded or accepted if they call each other out in this attack therapy. So it's like we're sitting in a circle.
Yeah.
Yes. And so what that would look like in terms of like 12 step is like instead of just standing up and sharing and then sitting back down, it's like the surveillance is like someone would like get up and sit across from me, and they would be like, you know what, John, like you've been on your fourth step for like 4 months. Like when are you gonna get that shit done? Like you've really been like slacking off, dude. And then someone else would like get up and sit next to them across from me and be like, yeah, and you know what? Like I totally saw you like hit, I don't know, like interacting with this other person in an inappropriate way. Were you guys like fucking up and smoking a joint, or are you being honest with us? It seems like you're slipping. And then like someone else would get. And actually, it was funny. I remember you were doing a podcast recently and talking about having the gun pointed at your head, and like that's what it was called, is like getting the gun pointed at you. And so you had to point the gun at other people so that you wouldn't get the gun pointed at you. And it was like but the whole basis of
Offense.
it, yes, the whole basis of it, I think, was just to break you down and to make you
Yeah.
cry, you know, like
Yeah.
and there's just so
Yeah.
many other avenues of like culty weird stuff that I won't go into. It's been interesting to go through that experience and do the sort of culty investigation work to like piece together that like this is an ideology that I came into contact with way earlier in life. So many of my friends that I met
Totally.
at that school, they're dead now, either by drug overdose or suicide, because it breaks people down. It breaks people down, and it takes maybe what struggles they had coming into it, and then pours gasoline on it in the facade of like healing, right? It's like, yeah. So
Brutal.
yeah.
Brutal. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to
No,
hear
no,
it.
it's fine. The that I don't regret any of it. Like that's the amazing thing. Like, yeah, it sucks. I wish that I didn't have to go through it, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's all a part of my story. And now it's
Yeah.
like an honor and a pleasure to be able to like share that with the world now, and hopefully be
Yeah.
some sort of instrument of like hope in some form
Yeah.
or fashion.
Yeah. I'm sorry your friends are dead.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, like it's another situation of you surviving somehow. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the things that you've been through, you know, and you're here. And I just also want to say this because I know some people, I don't know whoever, if you're watching or listening to this and you went through the troubled teen industry or you had like a Diedrich or what is his name, the Synanon cult leader, if you were exposed to one of his programs in some form or cousinhood or whatever, like let us know in the comments like what you experienced. I've had people send me videos of like of what they experienced when they were a troubled teen industry. They've shown me like training videos or old school videos from that high control group or cult or whatever it is. They might not all be cults, but some of them for sure. I've seen a documentary, I think Paris Hilton was even in it, on
Yeah.
Netflix, and I've seen there was a dramatization maybe just a couple of months ago on Netflix that was like #1 for a hot minute. I forget the name of it,
It's
but
called Deprogram.
well, yeah, there's the
Yeah.
program, and then there's another one too, because the program was more
Yeah.
like documentary, I think. But there's one
Right,
that's like a
right.
drama, like with actors. That's
Oh
on
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Someone told me
really
about that
good.
one.
And there was like no kids in the town or whatever because they all went through. They
Yeah.
all like were recruited to the program and then they stayed there, but nobody was allowed to have kids. I think you speak for a lot of people when you bring that up. It's like the grooming is part of like what can make us so susceptible later on. They call it like cult hopping too, where once we get used to one high control system that we're more vulnerable to future ones because it feels somewhat normalized to us in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think you really speak for a lot of people when you bring up the troubled teen industry and literally surviving it as a lot of the people that you went there with. Now, we don't know necessarily, we never know why someone dies really. Was it the indoctrination they got when they were a teenager? Was it the indoctrination of 12 step? Like, you can't say for certain, but I know that when we're exposed to these harmful ideologies, like it's always our fault no matter what, we're hopeless, learned helplessness, we're never going to get better, keep doing what's not working, the hope starts going down, the self-esteem goes down, the confidence goes down, and we see it maybe working, seeming to work for other people. The weird thing about 12 step though is you were saying that the people come back and say it's so bad out there. Nobody ever comes back and says how good it was out there. Look at
Yes, that's what
you.
I
You're
say
like,
all the
it's good
time.
out here. And you know what? I want to just validate and verify that it is good out here in you because we're Facebook friends and I've seen you out there. I'm like, I didn't know about your roller
Coasters.
coaster thing. And I was like, this guy's at amusement parks. He's like, were you in Japan or Tokyo? Like, I was like, this guy
I
is
was in
like
China.
Hong Kong or China. Yeah. I was like, he's over here. He's over here. You're always smiling and having all this fun. I'm like, this guy is like thriving.
Yeah. It feels like I am, and life is not without its struggles, but like I do really feel like I'm doing it. I finally stepped out there into the world and am like drinking life in. I'm drinking life in. It just feels really, really, really amazing. And I really believe that like that's possible for all of us that have been indoctrinated into this cult. If you're at that point where you're just like, you know that it's time to leave. You can feel it with every fabric of your being, and you know you're going to lose your community and your friends and you're going to be shunned. But there's just something that it is pulling you out there. That whole journey has been so worth it. And I really believe that community, that sense of belonging, not just like with other people, but within us, like that ability to realize that like I'm fucking human, motherfucker. I can feel angry. I can feel like bitter at times. I can feel joy and not feel, and I can reclaim gratitude. I can be all of these things. And it doesn't mean that I'm a defected piece of shit. There's just so much possibility out there. And I just really am trying to, uh, shine that light within myself because I've like experienced that pain and being so suicidal and all of that. And people are like, well, I've got a life, I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams because of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm like, motherfucker, I got a life beyond my wildest dreams because I got that shit out of my fucking head. But I can't go back in there and say that, so I'm saying it here.
Totally. Are you telling me that your worst day after deprogramming 12-step is better than your best day in 12-step? What is that bullshit? Do you remember
Such
that?
bullshit. Yeah.
I was like, no,
my worst my worst day, like drinking, is better. It might be backwards, but how does it go? Something like that. Yeah.
My worst day sober is better than my best day
Oh
drunk.
yeah.
I was like, I had great days drunk. What are you guys talking about? That's crazy town. Well, I drank a lot because I had a lot of fun with it. It wasn't always fun, but give me a break.
Yeah, well, but it tracks in terms of cults because cults always demonize the life prior coming into the cult. That's like one of the mechanisms of operation. Makes sense, but it's bullshit.
Right, because you have to be reborn as an alcoholic or reborn as an addict. In order to be reborn into your new cult identity, you have to shun and shame parts of yourself. You have to literally rewrite the past, too. Your sponsor's going to let you know what really happened to you because you weren't aware of it. So you're going to rewrite the past, probably demonize your family or some loved ones that you once were in contact with, or your friends who are still drinking. And yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a twisted thing. I mean, using any model of critical thinking really out there, I think America has like the second or first like in drug overdose death rate, right? Like we're up there out of all of the countries. And then we have the most treatment out of any country that exists. And it's like, if you connect those two things, hello, maybe the fucking like treatment is what's contributing a lot to this cycle that we find ourselves in, this conundrum, this clusterfuck that we find ourselves a part of. Is that if you brainwash people that they're an addict or an alcoholic and that they have to like hang on, white knuckle it and live one day at a time because you're never going to recover, and then if you do pick something up again, then you're going to be right back where you started. Yeah, of course, that's going to fuck people up. But it's not, it makes so much money, right? It makes so much money. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's so bananas, and nowhere else in anything medical at all do we only go by an opinion and a bunch of ideas from the 1930s and don't update with anything that we've learned about the brain since then.
Totally.
And not only that, Bill Wilson is literally preaching happy, joyous, and free, and talking about happiness and wholeness as he's writing the 12 and 12 while he's going through an 8-year or 11-year depression, which I understand because a lot of us go through some hard times.
Totally.
But you're literally not going well, and you're talking about how your program makes people go well. So what the fuckery is that? That's the Bill shit. The Bill shit is that you yourself don't really want to live. You can't get out of bed. Marty Mann's banging on your door, making up excuses for why the fuck you can't even show up in life. Not making fun of his mental health. I'm pointing out that literally the founder of it couldn't even get out of bed because he was so depressed. And this was almost a decade or however long it was. And he is still writing that his program is going to let you be happy, joyous, and free, or some version of that. You're going to know new freedom and a new happiness. We're promising you a new freedom and a new happiness, but he himself is not experiencing a new happiness. I feel like what happened is it wasn't him. They created a monster and it was out of the cage and they couldn't get it back in. So by the time Bill's in bed, depressed as fuck and thinking about at some point, do I do something else? What about LSD? Like, do I do something else?
Yeah.
Like, and good for him to think about that. By the time he's realizing that like he's not okay, the monster's out of the cage. He can't bring it back. He no longer owns the book. I mean, he's getting the royalties, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But he can't edit it because the cult has taken over and he can't control it. He can't
Right.
say, wait a minute, people, we need to edit that out because obviously it's not leaving us new freedom and new happiness.
Totally. Yeah, no. You don't talk about that LSD usage to try to help with your alcoholism. That doesn't toe the party line. like come on.
It's like everybody took crazy pills. It's the propaganda because it was repeated so many times that our perceptions have been skewed from reality. We
Yep.
can't see that there's even celebrities who preach AA and then die on drugs. So
Yeah.
clearly what they were doing wasn't working, respectfully, literally respectfully.
Yep.
But still, that is an example of why we should do this thing that clearly there's a casualty here. But we
Yep.
can't even see that because we're indoctrinated.
Mm-hmm.
It's so heartbreaking. And like, I'm with you on the reason why it's so important to have these courageous conversations is because people aren't making it,
Yep.
because people aren't surviving it.
Yep.
And even like in my case, I almost didn't survive leaving is how it felt. In your case, you didn't survive staying. But
Yep.
so many of us struggle so hard, either in or while we're leaving 12-step, and we're not supposed to talk about it because we're supposed to stay anonymous, which is the programming. And if
Yep.
we do, we get
Yeah.
harassed, all of the things. And it's like, we have a big problem here, folks. The system is broken. The emperor is wearing no fucking clothes. And if we're going to pretend that he's dressed and we like his clothes, people are getting very harmed.
Yeah.
And we
Absolutely.
deserve better. And we know about the brain now. Like, it doesn't even
Yeah.
make any sense. It's like doctors wearing no gloves and not washing their hands and delivering a baby or
Right.
doing surgery. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I just watched last night? It was called Death by Lightning. Garfield, the president. It's on Netflix. I fucking
Okay.
love it. I'm obsessed with history right now.
Nice.
Tangent. And so what happened was, spoiler alert, but we already know this if we know about history. He was assassinated. Rest
Yeah.
in peace, Garfield. He seemed like he was a vibe. Can I do a spoiler alert here on what happens in the series?
Oh, sure. But you might offend some viewer out there, but it's fine by me. I'll check it
Okay,
out.
I'll time step it. Go forward if you don't want the spoiler alert. Basically, he was shot twice. I think the first shot, at least the way they made it look in the series, is it grazed his shoulder, so maybe the bullet didn't go in him, and the second bullet was inside him. And so the doctor was thinking, I need to get the bullet out, right? And so the doctor is no gloves, bare hands, did not clean his metal utensils, and is digging in there and trying to find the bullet multiple times. So what ends up happening after, and he dies a couple months later, right, of sepsis, right? And so
yeah.
when they do the autopsy, it turns out that no organs were damaged. The bullet went straight in, and he could have essentially survived the shot if there had been no treatment.
Oh my God.
If he hadn't had been cut open with a dirty scalpel, reached in with bare hands that were not washed, and the guy's with his bare hands trying to grab around with his fingers for a bullet. And they said because the bullet actually hit nothing, it did no damage to any organs. It was literally and no bone, like it didn't get the spine, like it was fine where it actually happened to naturally go. And that it was the treatment that caused his death. And at that point, people thought there was a doctor there, at least in the show, and who knows what happened in reality, who said, what about germs? You should use antiseptic. And he said, oh, I don't believe in imaginary bugs. It's just an example of the treatment being what causes the harm. And that was a gamble, right? Because they didn't know where the bullet had gone and they thought they had to get it out. But in his case, they actually didn't. What's believed, I think, maybe I'm wrong, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but that he likely would have survived if there had been no treatment at all. When we think about like your story, we think about President Garfield, we think even about your mom. And I didn't even know about your mom's story when I said in the very beginning of our conversation, everybody knows there's consequences to cancer treatments, but we choose them anyways with consent because we feel like the benefits will outweigh the harms, right? And then here you explain your mom's deciding she doesn't want that treatment anymore. She doesn't want that harm anymore. So there's this huge conversation around the harm of treatment that we're not aware of with 12-step. And that's the conversation that I think needs to be elevated. Not so that people don't go. I don't know what the heck anybody should do. But all I know is every single cigarette I smoked, I knew it came with harm. That was well known by the time I ever picked up my first cigarette, and I haven't smoked in like 15, 16 years, whatever it is, 16 years. But I knew from cigarette number 1, because by that point we all knew there was no more gaslighting. It was clear. That's what I want for 12-step in a perfect world in my mind, that if we choose that treatment, we know that harm comes with that treatment and we can choose it. Because I am all about conscious choice, consent, freedom, like choose it. If you want to choose to do something that's going to fuck you up a little bit for whatever reason, whether it's going on TikTok for a while and being a troll, whether it's smoking a couple cigarettes, whether it's going to 12-step for that matter, fine, you're choosing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a brilliant, brilliant metaphor of that show for what's going on there. I mean, that's right on the money. Nice work. But like, be honest also about what the fuck you are. You're a religion. There's a Catholic church across the street from my house, and I'll tell you right now, they say they're a religion. They don't pretend that they're a spiritual, but they're actually a religion. Fuck, man, just like be honest about it. That like the lack of informed consent and also just like being upfront about what you are, what the program is. It just seems so slimy and sleazy and gross to me. They'll sort of dip around the issue and say, well, it's not a religion because you can pick out whatever form of God you want. That is fucking bullshit. I went to so many meetings where it's like, sure, you could choose the doorknob, you could choose the universe, you could choose whatever God, but what that God is pointing to is the same in the program. It's pointing at whatever entity you choose. It's going to be there to guide you as long as you're in line with the dogma of the program. And it's going, I can't tell you how many times I heard someone say, well, I took a drink and my higher power was gone. That just paints the picture for everyone else in the meeting. Oh, wow, I better not take a drink because my higher power will be gone.
You're going to block the sunlight of the spirit.
Yeah. It's literally pointing to the 12-step God. It is pointing to a very specific God that is, even though the sort of stencil of the God might like look a little bit different, it's pointing to the same thing. So I just think it's so important for the program to just be honest and like, man, if it was arranged in a way where it was like, just like what you say all the time in your videos. It's like, oh, fuck, man, like you fell down and broke your leg. We'll be a cast for you, a social cast for a little while. And then once your leg is healed, not only can you take the cast off and leave, you can thrive. And even if that looks like different from the abstinence only or whatever it is, you can define for yourself what really fills you up. And it just breaks my damn heart. Breaks my heart.
Perpetuate itself, and if you tell people they can leave, then you lose your free labor hook. And so the disease model locks in the free labor, which is where you have this self-perpetuating system that never has to end because you have forevery, right? It's a forever recovery model. And if they told you that you can leave, then it's not going to be forever because people wouldn't be there. They would leave, and then there's nobody there to help the newcomers, and that's part of the guilt trip, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. It's funny. One of those 3 friends I was telling you about, I don't know if he still talks to like some people or whatever that are in the rooms, but he's like, he always tells me, I love telling people about my friend John that graduated the program and is like out there killing it. Like, dude, thanks, man.
Totally. I've seen the receipts. I've seen the pictures. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy is doing all the things. Like, I've seen the receipts. Oh my God. Okay, so I want to read you something that I just found. I think you'll like it because it's kind of what we were just talking about. So the book Alcoholics Anonymous came out April 10th, 1939. April 1939. This is 1939. It's something that is in the American Medical Association, the JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association. This is their book review of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I won't read you the whole thing. I'll read you the fun part.
Yeah.
It says, the book under review is a curious combination of organizing propaganda and religious exhortation. It is in no sense a scientific book, although it is introduced by a letter from a physician who claims to know some of the anonymous contributors who have been, quote, cured of addiction to alcohol and have joined together in an organization which would save other addicts by a kind of religious conversion. And then there's more, but I'll skip to the last line. It says, the only valid thing in this book, what a sentence, right? The one valid thing in this book is the recognition of the seriousness of addiction to alcohol. Other than this book has no scientific merit or interest.
Wow, you're right. I do love it. And isn't it funny that even back all that time, like they hit the nail on the head.
And you want to go to Crazy Town for a second? You know what the AMA did about 20 years later? I think it was 1956.
What?
They recognized, after a lot of Marty Mann infiltration, AA infiltration, they recognized addiction as a disease. They accepted the disease model in and then started perpetuating AA. So I'm like, y'all knew it was propaganda, and then you lasted 20 years, and then you capitulated because the propaganda went so deep that all of society starts to believe it. Because if you keep saying stuff over and over and over again, whatever it is, and you see politicians today repeating the same simple phrases over and over and over again, you saw them back in the day doing that. I mean, Hitler literally wrote the book on propaganda, Mein Kampf or whatever. He literally wrote a book on propaganda, and then he went out and did it. And it's these short sentences, but the sentences are also in AA. We call them slogans. We call the propaganda slogans in AA. The thought-stopping techniques, but it's live and let live. They keep coming back. It works if you work it.
Feelings aren't facts.
It's a disease. And AMA is like, oh, okay, guess 20 years later, it went from no scientific validity to it's a disease.
Right. Thank you for reading that, by the way. That was amazing. I really take great offense to people like that whole perspective that addiction is a disease, because like my mom fucking died because of a real disease. Like there are diseases are observable in the human body and in animals and like plants, all of that stuff. Diseases are observable phenomenon. It just pisses me off so much. And it's not even, people have been brainwashed into that perspective, but God, the medical community, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, you guys should know this.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm thinking about your mom and you, and about how, you know, her comforting you and begging you to live, right? When her seeing you, how much you were struggling and stuff. And that at that time, neither of you realized it was because the treatment was harming you. And so I'm wondering if there is a mother or a parent or a spouse watching right now who has somebody, a loved one who's in 12-step, who's struggling and is in 12-step. What would you say to this loved one who knows somebody struggling in 12-step?
Oh my gosh. That is so, it's so important, but it's so tricky, right? Because I know people whose like their families are like either members or they are on board with it. And it's like, how does one navigate around that? Because the very basis of it is that they've been brainwashed to think that any sort of dissent is like the disease. It's part of the problem. Like,
okay, let me make it easier for you.
Yeah.
If you could, what you know right now, go whisper in your mother's ear the day that you were crying and she comforted you. If you could go whisper her something about what was going on with you in AA, what would you tell her?
The way that the language and this program in the steps and the program is outlined is actually inflammatory to a person's well-being and mental health. And that even though you might have been told by quote unquote professionals that this is the pathway to whatever transformation, growth, freedom from addiction, I think it's pretty observable from my decline in mental well-being that it's having a disastrous effect on me. And here are some alternatives to this paradigm, and lay out the list of like, because there's so many, there's so many different other ways of thinking about this now. There really are. I hate anyway. And so take a look at these, and like, could we have a conversation around this and maybe put aside a little bit of the fear that you're feeling? Because I think that in a sense you and I want the same thing. I don't want to be this hopelessly like, I don't want to be in this harmful habit anymore either, but this treatment modality is causing me incredible harm and strain. And so I'm wondering if we can come together and examine other potential possibilities together.
Yeah, I love that. I have an AA alternative playlist. I'll link it up here for anybody who, or down below and up here for anybody who's curious about AA alternatives. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of us do still need support. I needed support when I left AA because I was I was harmed from the treatment. And I say this all the time, but it took me months, like 3 or 4 months, to remove the false belief that I was going to die if I left. I believed for 4 months after leaving that I was walking into my death, and I still knew I had to leave. And I was like, I have to be willing to die because my gut is saying run, and I have to trust that. If I can't trust my gut, I have nothing, and everything in me is saying run. It's bullshit, even though I think I'm running to my death. It's like, because that's what the mind control is. And people say it's voluntary, you can leave at any time, and I'm like, bro, cults do not use guns at your head or locks on the doors. They use
Nope.
words that go into your mind so that you police yourself and don't even know that you can leave. Cute dog, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Poked in to say
Hello, little
hi.
cutie.
He's like, it's dinner time.
Totally. It's totally dinner time. Well, this has been a roller coaster with you. I know you like roller coasters. I've laughed. I've
Yeah.
cried. I keep
I mean,
staying for more. Like, it's been great to hear your
I mean,
story.
I will say cult roller coasters are not my preferred make and model, but yeah, it's an
Buckle up.
interesting story. Yeah, it's an interesting story for sure. And, if you stuck around, thank you so much. Oh, now Pepper's saying hi too.
Hi,
Anyway,
Pepper. What are your tell us what your plans are for YouTube and
okay,
dissenting.
yeah,
Tell us about
absolutely,
it.
absolutely. So first of all, I want to be like a part of all of this. Like I want to talk more with you. I want to do a podcast with Burn the Stigma, Quackaholics Anonymous. Like I definitely am like, I'm not just in the sort of boat of like, I want to do this podcast and then just move on. Like this whole experience that I went through has been a really poignant and powerful thing for me, and it's been a huge topic of conversation, like with my other friends that have left, and like with my new friends that I've met too. It's interesting that that 12 step kind of bestowed a purpose onto me, and in a sense they kind of did, whereas like, yeah, my purpose is to try to wake people up and society at large up to like, hey, this thing should come with a fucking warning label. Like, and so that's definitely a huge north star for me. Started my YouTube channel from recovery to discovery. It's brand new. I will send you like the link to one of my videos, and you can put it in the
Yeah.
description.
I'll put
And then
your YouTube channel link below for everybody. Yeah.
I love your whole philosophy of like, yeah, I'm a fucking soul inside a body sent here to evolve. Like, I want to improve my nutrition, meditate and do breath work in the fucking sensory deprivation tank every week. Like, I want to understand and be a force of becoming evolved, right? So that was
Yep.
like, created like a Facebook group called From Recovery to Discovery. I'm trying to do this with the philosophy of like, ready, fire, aim instead of like ready, aim, fire. It's like I don't know how to like really make a good thumbnail for a video yet. All of the
Neither do
stuff to
I.
like make it. Yeah, you do. No, you've got that way down better than me. I want to start like putting that stuff out there before I like know how to do it all perfectly. I'm also going to send you the link for the video of the attack therapy for the troubled teen industry program.
Yeah.
It's about 10 minutes long. In Synanon, it was called The Game, and
Yeah.
in Sea-Doo, it's called Raps, R-A-P-S, but it's the same shit. I feel like anyone who was in the program, you could look at the video of the raps and you can kind of see the 12-stepness in it. You could like apply it to the program. And what was interesting is that actually, even though like that Sea-Doo was like cult on a compound with like sleep deprivation and weird rituals and all of that stuff, my cult experience in 12-step was, I feel like, 10 to 100 times worse because I was forced into the troubled teen program, and I became a true believer in 12-step, and that made it so much more harmful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I legit lived at the ashram in India. Bhagwan. Everybody thinks he's if you go to Netflix and put in cult, you'll see Bhagwan, Osho. So I was there. I took sannyasin, which means I took a new name and I devoted my life to. I did the ceremony. I was wearing red robes the entire time. So I had the clothes down. I had a new name. I was sleep deprived. There's a certain diet there. It's all vegetarian on the campus, right? And you live there. Well, I did. And so very immersed in a commune that most people would consider a cult.
Yep.
Not even kidding you. That is like a 0 on my cult experience.
Yeah.
My cult experience was the church basement at Alcoholics Anonymous, and my cult leader was my sponsor, who told me that every single problem I could have is called alcoholism, and every single solution I would ever need in my life is called the 12 steps. She's the one who thought reformed me. I actually got a lot of healing at Osho. I did inner child work. I did a lot of stuff. I mean, some of it you're like shaking and going hoo and raising your hands up and all this stuff, right? But I actually really enjoyed it there. There's always in any cult, like, and I don't know
there's the inner circles.
The true believer experience is different than if you're on the periphery, and how long you're there and how desperate you are when you join and what your vulnerabilities are and how reformed you get. But it's really the sponsorship that becomes like a proxy cult leader in a lot of cases, because they're the ones that indoctrinate you, take you under their wing and tell you how it is. And that you have to be willing to go to that they say to you, like, are you willing to go to any lengths? You have to do whatever I say. You went to any lengths for alcohol. Well, you went to multiple stores to get booze. If one was closed, you'd go to another. You got to go to any lengths. You go to the clubhouse and the meeting's closed. You got to go to another place. You got to go to any lengths for your sobriety. You got to talk to the newcomer. So they're really the ones that thought reformed me. So yeah, I've also had like cult-like experiences, but no, I was only in one cult, and it was called Alcoholics Anonymous as far as being in.
Yep.
And it's no joke leaving.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's seriously a mind fuck. I mean, for like us being true believers, like just that all of the different facets that we've talked about, but just like believing something so intently and with all of my being, and then realizing that it's like not true. It's like, who the fuck am I? Like, oh my God.
And that the American Medical Association knew that it was propaganda and religious conversion, like right when it came out. That was their book review. And then we're still like 90 years later confused. No, I'm like, it is propaganda and religious conversion. Just like they saw it then, I see it now.
Yep.
Like, what?
Yep.
Why is it still happening?
Oh, absolutely.
Bueller? Does
Right.
anyone see what's like, what the fuck? Like, and you know why? You know why I'm like so on it? Because people like you almost didn't make it. People like me almost didn't make it. And so everyone's stuck in this cult mindset, and we are the casualties. Literally me and you. The darkest thoughts I've ever had in my entire life are when I left AA.
Yeah.
It was such a hard time for me. It was very, very difficult. That is like my fuel. That's like my why.
Yes.
I know I'm not alone in that. And I know that we need to hear voices, and hearing the voices talking about it, especially in video form or in podcast, not just reading things. I know the validation, although not necessary, can like really speed up the process and help us heal and feel less alone in such an isolating time period, leaving a cult, leaving the community. So I'm really glad that you're putting yourself out there and that you feel like dissenting is a vibe you're going to lean into. It's been incredibly transformative for me. Like, I had no idea. I thought after the first year of deprogramming, I was good, and I almost didn't ever open my mouth. And I'm so different now than I was in April before I ever said anything dissenting wise, like in the past 8 months or whatever. And so actually, yeah, it's 8 months today. So 8 months of dissenting has completely radically transformed everything. Everything. I don't think everybody should do it, but if you feel like doing it, like, I don't know. I had to trust that thing inside me that said, even if everybody hates you, even if like you get attacked, even if like everybody unfriends you, like, I'd rather be alone and trust and be myself and trust my intuition and just do what I know I need to do, because I know there's other people like me. I know what I needed to hear and I wasn't hearing.
Well, I mean, me resonating so much with you as a result of that. And I really feel like I owe you a deep debt of like gratitude just for like just the way that you speak about this and like your courage. Like, you're that lioness back there. Seriously.
I'm in the jungle,
like,
bitch.
Yeah. I'm like
I
really...
am a Leo. I was born in August, so have you noticed? A little fiery up in here. Serenity now. Serenity now.
And what's been so interesting is like the times where like after I left and like I would like ride my unicycle along like the ocean and dance on it, I had an encounter with someone who was like an old timer in the rooms who was like, so friendly to me there, and he was like, oh my God, like rides alongside me on his bike. He's like, John, like, where have you been? Like, oh, like I missed you so much. Like what's been going on? And I could see in his eyes the question that he like really wanted to ask me, so I like did him the honor and was just like, oh yeah, not in the rooms. And he was just like, oh really? I'm like, yeah man, I've been out here like doing the same shit, riding my unicycle, traveling, like being with my family, enjoying life. And I made the mistake of saying, and I'm like, and I'm never coming back. And he's like, oh yeah, I see it all the time. People think they got this on their own and they leave. You're not special, loser. And then like turns and rides off down like a side street. And it like hurt at the time, but then I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right, dude. I'm not new. Like, I'm the fucking norm, motherfucker. Like,
why is that the attraction, not promotion? Why would you want to go join a group that guy is in? Are you kidding me? No, I love what you said about like when you get to the cult, like it's like there's no boundaries. Everybody needs to be accepted. And then now you're like, no, discernment is a vibe in friendship.
Yeah.
You need to be respectful.
Totally.
I love it. What an adventure you have been on. I'm just really, like, I feel so honored to be able to have this conversation with you. And I thank you for your heart and your courage and for sharing so raw and real what you went through. And really, you survived. Like, you survived NA. I want to say Alcoholics Anonymous. You survived 12 steps. And I think that's such a powerful message. And I really feel like if you do feel inspired to be sharing about your story more, I really feel that you're going to be able to reach a lot of people and really make a shift in the world, because it comes from the depth in you. It comes like from your, like, I don't know, we want to call it like soul, or like it really, like when we get spared and get that second shot at life, or when we survive something that's so visceral, there's a potent energy there. And so I just feel like, yeah, I feel like it's going to be really powerful when you really blow up and like let it rip. And if you choose to, right? Because I don't know what you should do. I don't know what anyone should fucking do. Not in a
Thank
cult.
you. No, I'm definitely gonna do it. And I had a lot of fear surrounding it at like dissenting, because I think I have irrational perceptions of like what true believers are gonna do. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, they're gonna kill my dogs. You know what I mean? They're gonna like do like all of this stuff. But really, I was talking about this with Jake, and he was like, really, like thinking about it realistically, you are going to get pushback, but it's just going to be mean and hateful comments online, like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So,
Maybe a
and,
snake
and
in the mailbox.
right. Yeah,
Speaking of Synanon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were in the Bay Area at the end.
I
They came to the,
know.
I mean, what?
I
But we
know, I
also,
know.
in the Bay Area, we also had Jonestown was here before,
Yep.
Jim Jones was here before they went and did Jonestown.
Yep. Yep. The
Cults
Bay
like the
Area,
Bay Area.
I know, I
Like,
know.
it's the cult area.
Yeah, the cold area. I mean, but it makes sense. It's so beautiful here.
Well, and Manson started out in the Bay Area.
Yeah, yeah,
Charlie
yep,
Manson before he went down to LA. Yeah.
yep, yep. But yeah, I'm really excited to continue dissenting and making more videos and collaborating with amazing humans like you, and like I definitely want to reach out to Burn the Stigma. And I mean, I like, honestly, I was like so nervous the other day, because like you did one of your first like tea with besties, and you're like, I feel like there's a wave coming. I feel like there's this wave, and
I
I'm just
do.
like, I don't want to miss the wave. Like two, like I promised.
You know what?
The
And you know
wave.
what? I actually feel confident in that, but that's also a delusion, right? Because it's the future. I'm not a future teller. But I'll tell you what, I'll tell you like why I feel confident in the wave is coming, because I felt a very similar wave in 2017. That was, ooh, it's emotional for me. It was so strong. Like I felt this huge, strong wave come, and I had this moment. I was in Bali, and I had just healed some of my childhood sexual abuse, and I knew from the depths of my being that I needed to talk about it, and I
Yeah,
didn't want to, but nothing felt more right in my body that I have to do this. I have to connect the dots between childhood sexual abuse, mental health declining, and alcohol addiction, and like explain like how we can get re-victimized and the trauma, and like I knew I had to do that. And I remember like I just knew it in my soul, like when you know it and your whole body is vibrating. And I just rode around so scared for the first week on my motorbike. I mean, I left like 2 weeks later, like left the island, was like, I have to go to America and do this. I have to go right now. And the first week I rode around on my motorbike, just like saying, fuck, 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 crying the entire time because I was shaking. I was so scared because it was the one thing I could never talk about. In fact, I hadn't talked about it ever. Most people didn't know that part of my story, right? And I just felt like I have to go, I have to go, I have to go. And it took me months to have the courage to talk about it. I left in May. In August, I remember I was in Vegas with my niece at a Britney Spears concert. I was in the hotel room and I hit live on Facebook and I just started like kind of crying weird. I got to talk about it just very like raw. Like I have to, I just have to hit live and do it because you have to rip that Band-Aid off, right? When is
yep,
it going to feel comfortable to be so fucking uncomfortable? So I
yep.
finally just hit live. I was like, I got 20 minutes now. I got to hit it, do it, and then just go and then go dance to Britney because who doesn't like Britney, bitch? That's a
Right.
vibe. Well, and in 2017, she was still totally a vibe as far as I thought.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know how like troubled she was, I guess. So anyways, what do we know about what happened at the end of 2017? Well, Alyssa Milano did a little Me Too tweet and blew up a whole fucking thing called Me Too
Yeah.
somewhere around September, October.
That's
And then
right.
yes. And
That's right. Wow. Oh my God.
I knew with every cell in my body that I felt called to speak about this. And I was so scared. And the only thing that I was more scared about not speaking about it, was denying what I knew that felt
Yep.
like my purpose in the world, right? I was
Yep.
like, fuck, I know this with my whole being, but I can't do it because that's so scary. The fear, all the things, right? The judgment.
Yep.
And so it was like, then Me Too happened. And the next thing I know, I ended up doing a talk about it. I thought I was going to talk at a bunch of different colleges and do this like road trip, but I ended up getting one big talk. It was a TED talk, and over 500,000 people have seen that talk.
Yeah.
So I knew. And then why did everybody watch it? And why did I get that talk? Because there was
There
a
was a wave.
coming, because there was a shift in consciousness. This is my spiritual belief, right? I'm not trying to indoctrinate anybody into how I see things, but I felt like there was a shift that was coming, that a bunch of us were tapped on the shoulder to talk about this, connect these dots for people to awaken to a new level of healing, some new rules, some harm and safety in the world and stuff. And I was one of the people who got tapped on. So was Alyssa Milano. So was a lot of other people. And that wave was coming, and I was so scared, but I felt it and I did it. And then I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I felt that as it was coming up. And then it was like everybody was talking about it, right? And so that's what I feel right now with the talking about the harms in AA. I feel like the wave is coming. It is here. Some of us are surfing on it. Some of us are paddling out to the wave, and there's going to be a lot more of us. And then when that wave finally breaks, it's just going to be known, and it's not going to end just like SA didn't end. It's not going to end. The harm isn't going to end, but the awareness is going to become mainstream, and people aren't going to be afraid to talk about it. And I feel like that's the wave that's coming. And it feels the same way in my body as it felt before when we all witnessed that wave coming. So that's why I say I feel like spiritually confident about it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I just got goosebumps. Like, the excitement is like pulsating through my body.
I felt so humble.
Awesome.
I was like, oh my God, a bunch of us were tapped on the shoulders, kind of how it felt. And it all came together at the same time. There must have been some weird, like it was just ready to erupt in society. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of my spiritual beliefs, not like how everybody needs to see the world. But yeah, so long story long.
Yeah, I'm totally here for it. Thank you for like talking to me for so long. Like, I feel so lifted up, and there's like a huge like dance party thing I'm going to tonight with my girlfriend. I'm gonna dance.
Oh my God, I love it. Yeah. Well, cool. What a delight. Like, really, genuinely. This has been a pleasure. And I kind of knew, because I saw one of your posts on my Facebook months ago, and we started DMing, and I just knew that when you felt ready, it was just going to explode. And I feel like that's what happened today in the best way possible. And yeah, I just feel really inspired by your story. I feel really inspired by your courage. And I feel really touched by your heart. And I'm just really like delighted, I guess is the word, that you're moving into a season where you're going to be speaking truth and healing and light, I guess, into the world.
Thank
in a bigger
you,
way.
Kirsten.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for riding that wave alongside of us. I am absolutely and 100% team freedom up in here. So team freedom
10.
all the way.
Team freedom, hanging 10, motherfucker. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening today to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. It's been super fun to have you here with this great chat with John. Let us know what you think in the comments. Share your thoughts. Share what came up for you. What did you relate to? What stood out for you? What spoke to you? I love joining the conversation in the comments, because it's, as I always say, it's not what I say. It's not even what my guest says, even though this was phenomenal. It's what everybody says, because critical thinking is about looking at all the sources, not just one or two or five. So I look forward to seeing you in the comments below. All right, everybody. Bye. Take care.
Bye, everybody.